We got another question from Twitter. Daniel has a question for us.
Oh.
Have you done any work around minimalism and education for children?
Well, sort of. We are working on this thing right now with the folks from Ramsey Solutions. We are trying to, promote financial literacy, because I think it's one of the biggest problems that we have is we go to school, we're taught to build a credit score, to go into debt as soon as you turn 18 by getting 6 figures or 5 figures worth of college loans. And all of a sudden, before we know it, we turn around, we're 30 years old with 6 figures worth of debt. So the average American household that is indebted has $97,775 in debt. And so, what is that? It's credit card debt. It is automobile debt. It's school debt. That's non-mortgage debt, by the way. So we're facing 6 figures worth of debt before we even start living our lives. And then it keeps us from what? Living our lives, because now I feel tethered to this lifestyle, right? And so Ryan and I, we've been working with the folks at Ramsey Solutions to provide, financial literacy training for every high school student and every middle school student in Dayton, Ohio. So a quick plug for that. I don't get any money for this, but you can help contribute. $25 gives curriculum to one middle school student, $45 to a high school student, theminimalists.com/education if you're interested. So that's my plug for helping some kids out so they're not borrowing from their future. Because ultimately, that's what we're talking about. I don't think, and we may differ on this quite a bit. TK's works with a lot of students. I don't think we have anything to teach our kids. And here's what I mean by that. I want to get really specific here. I think that minimalism is sort of the natural state for human beings. We've complected our lives. We've added all this complexity to our lives through expectations, through consumerism, through careers, through career paths, through whatever material goods we think we should have. And just societal constructs, basically, saying, here's what you're going to do, and then you're going to be happy, right? And so I want to help my daughter avoid those things, but I don't have anything to teach her in the sense, like, I never taught her how to bend her elbow. She just figured that out, right? You create the environment so that she can do these things. I never taught her how to eat food. I didn't teach her how to get hungry. No, that happens. That appears on its own. Now, of course, I'm not saying we don't add boundaries for our kids. We certainly have to. I can't say when she was 3 years old, you can't just go play out in traffic. Good luck with that. No, there are boundaries that we set for our kids. But in terms of teaching, I think it has much more to do with setting up the environment. Now, we don't send Ella to public school anymore just because I found that route was poisonous. And so we've removed her from that system that wasn't working well for her. And so, why wasn't it working well? Because in that environment, she was not thriving. Her personally, not every kid, but her person, she was not thriving. So removing her from environments in which she doesn't thrive. It doesn't mean we remove all the obstacles. I'm not going to bubble wrap her world. In fact, it's the opposite of that. Yeah, you can climb a tree as long as I don't have to lift you into it. You can climb as high as you want because you'll figure out how to get down if you climbed it yourself.
Yeah. Socrates saw education not as the process of imparting that which is not known into the heart and mind of the student, but rather unearthing what already exists in that person's soul, helping them recollect what they always knew. Sometimes we know things, but then we get away from what we know because of societal pressure, because of different kinds of influences that result in us mistrusting ourselves or losing that self-love. And so the best educators are the ones that help you recall what you natively know. It's sort of like teaching a balloon how to float. You just can't do that. A balloon doesn't need you to teach it how to float. However, if someone took a string and tied a stone to that balloon, you'll find that the balloon actually is capable of sinking. And your job as the educator is to come along and cut that string, to remove the stones that hold the balloon back from doing what it is part of its nature to do. And so I believe that students are capable of thinking for themselves. They're capable of more great things than they could possibly imagine, but they're weighed down by the stones of so many self-defeating fallacies that they've picked up already at a very young age. And so one of the ways I go into classrooms and teach this as the education director at FEE is I help students make that shift from the consumer mindset to the creator mindset. Because when you think about all the good things in life, you can't consume them. You can't consume happiness. You can't consume love. You can't consume fulfillment. You have to create happiness. You have to create fulfillment. You have to create an amazing career. You have to create a wonderful lifestyle. But consumption isn't bad. It's a part of being human. We have to take the resources of the earth and use them to meet our needs. But consumption is only fulfilling when it's contextualized by a life of creativity, which is why when you consume without creating, you tend to be more depressed and you tend to lack the joy that comes from being able to create wealth. And so what I do is when I talk with students, I say, look, consuming is a part of life, but what becomes of the possibilities of your life when you think of yourself as someone more than just, wanting that pair of shoes? Do you know that the power exists in you to create something just like that, or maybe even better than that another person can put on their feet and their feet can feel really good and they say, wow, this is the best pair of shoes I ever had? Like, do you know that potential exists within you? And maybe it's not shoes, maybe it's music, maybe it's fashion, maybe it's something completely different. Your soul knows what that is. My job is to remove the stones that keep what is within you from coming to the surface. And I believe that's really the essence of what this is all about.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with, I read somewhere the idea that knowledge is like, information. We seem to think that gaining information is the way to be, when all it really does is sort of, not to keep harping on the idea, but it gives us expectations and rigidity in the way that we are, instead of knowledge through experience and growth in that way of becoming who we actually are, being kind of pumped full of information. In the information age that we live in, it's all empty calories, because really the thing is, knowledge comes from experience and from learning, and then that's really what we're looking for. So as teachers, I feel like it's my job as a parent to be the best, to allow my kid to become the best that she is, and truly, like that's my whole goal. Like you said, to remove anything, to try and help her remove any obstacles that get in the way of her fulfilling who she is.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm going to put this out there. Josh, I don't know if I'll get in trouble, but I will come to your high school for free and I'll talk about this if we can make it work, right? Like, get as many people together as you can so we can make it count, as opposed to like me trying to hit up 100 high schools to talk to a handful of people each time. But if you can get together, 100 plus people, high school students, and you want me to talk about this, I don't know if I'm getting in trouble for this on my first day on the Minimalist, but I will come in there myself and I'll talk about some of these things for free. I won't charge you a dime.
Just send an email, podcast@theminimalists.com. Mallory will get that over to us for sure.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.